Very good.
Like, no, it doesn't. And starts at tomorrow. We were 7.
I'm going off the regular.
That's
So
So
you need me to start? I can start. Okay. That one says 7:01 down there.
It is just about, oh, that better? How we do?
Oh, it is now 7:00 and we are calling the budget meeting to order. Today is March 19th, 2026, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hoorah.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and Budget Committee, the original intent of scheduling tonight's meeting was to review the 24-25 audit. The 24-25 audit is not yet completed, but the finance figures, unaudited finance figures, are available. And so tonight, I am prepared to share with you a finance report as it relates to the 24-25 fiscal year, as well as a year-to-date report as to how we are doing right now as of the last day of February for this year. So I love talking figures. I love talking numbers. I think you tell a story. How deep you want to go this evening and how long you want to be here is the committee's choice. But I would like to provide at least a brief overview. And if you wish to get into depth and conversations, that is purely at the will of the committee and themselves. If you would take a look at this chart, which is on the back side of the agenda, that was in the packet. Essentially, this is sort of a summary page reflecting the last 2 years plus where we're at right now. So these are totals of our most active and larger funds. We have 26 funds. And then the general fund, there's 6 sub-funds. But the actuals on the far left column for 2024 came from our recently completed audit, 23-24 audit. So what we actually had for revenue of the general fund and what we actually spent. Now, if you look at the top line for 2024 actual, that's the amount of revenue we took in, 1.2 million. And if you go down to GF expenditures, about 8 lines down, you'll see where we spent 1.6. So during the 23-24 calendar year, obviously the general fund spent more than they brought in. That's when things sort of became a little more challenging for the municipal organization. Moving on to the 25 budget column, the second one over is purely what was budgeted for 24-25. And again, if you look at what was, that's just the budget. Go over to 2025 actual, you will see where our general fund revenue, right in the middle of the page, unaudited 2025 actual general fund revenue was 1.28. Go down about 8 lines are general fund expenditures, only 1.32. So generally speaking, during the 24 year, we spent about 303,000 more than what we brought in the general fund, putting this into the red. 24-25, we spent about 85,000 more than what we brought in. And based upon other adjustments and stuff, what that meant was when we started the year we're in right now, the general fund was 373,000 in the red. But what you have before you here is where we're at right now. So let's take a quick look at the unaudited 2025 actual things. We received 1.2 in general revenue, in general fund revenue. That is all our tax money. That is all our franchise money. That is funds from some services that are general fund related, but not a lot. So our total revenue was 1.28, and we spent 1.32 based upon our expenditures during 24-25. Next fund down is the state street tax fund, where we received 236 and we spent 260. Now that fund did not go in the red because there was carryover for the previous year, which kept that fund alive. What you're looking at here is what revenue came in, which does not count what was already in the fund. The carryover only counts the tax, street gasoline tax, any grants that you would pay out. So again, we spent a little bit more than what we had received. You go down to the water fund, and you'll see where we spent generally around 68,000 is a figure to stick in my mind. I couldn't do the math in front of you, but in the last fiscal year, we spent 68,000 or so more in the water fund than what we brought in. Again, we had savings from previous years, so we had carryover money, which kept us alive. But the water fund this last year, we spent more than we brought in. When we come to wastewater, we have even more. Now, let me give you a little caveat about the wastewater. There was a lot of movement of money between the ARPA fund and the sewer fund. I would not want to be standing in court with a straight face saying that it all came out okay. I am not that concerned about how much more we spent, though we did spend that much more in the sewer than we brought in. The chances are it's because ARPA money was moved into the sewer fund and then expended. So that's sort of a caveat that year there. And then the stormwater fund, which looks pretty okay based on what came out. So that column right there is the time period that just ended last June, 8 months ago. So that gives you the most recent figure as it relates to June 30, 2025. Next column over is the budget we're currently in right now, today, 25-26. Started on July 1st of 25 and on June 30th, 26. So what you see here is a budget that has been adjusted from the original budget by the supplemental budget that the council did earlier this month. So these figures of what the budget is with the changes that were made at the council meeting a week or so ago. So based upon that, that's the budget figures right there. The next figure to the right is our actual figures as to the year we're in right now. So we budgeted, received 1.9, and we have received 1.4 in the general fund. We budgeted to spend 415 in administrative, and so far, well, this is projected. So far, I project to end the year with spending 250. We have been doing our level best at staff level to evaluate our expenses, to try to work our way out of the situation that we are dealing with as it relates to our general fund. So the supplemental budget amount is what we're authorized to spend. Projected to 2026 is my projection as to what we will have spent as of June 30. In other words, I took what we've done to date, divided it by 8 months, multiplied it by 12, made a few exceptions because some things were paid up front, like insurance, and gave you a projected figure of how the year will end based upon. So if things hold to my best estimate, we will have budgeted 1.69, and we will have spent 1.1. Now we'll get into some of the real things about that a little bit later. Year to date, or actual for the season we're in right now, you can see where we're spending more tax state money than we brought in. But again, we have savings from previous years in those funds. Again, water, we're spending more than what we've got. Most of you are aware of our unexpected water filter issue that we're having to take care of. The sewer fund, again, but none of our funds will end up in the red based upon the general fund. Well, I'll come back. We're gonna be okay. We will survive the year fine. No fund should be in the black and the red at the end of the year, based upon the actions that we did with the supplemental budget. So I want to talk a little bit about policies and practice type stuff as it relates to the orange sheet, because this sort of spells out what I have done as your finance officer, budget officer, city manager, and the changes that we've made and how we are addressing the issues as it relates to the condition of our general fund. Part of the supplemental budget was authorized in a loan of up to $220,000 from the sewer system development charge fund that has $1 million into the general. So I don't think we need the whole 220,000. We have moved 200,000 from the sewer SDC fund to the general fund. That will keep us in the black for this year. Due to state law, we're required to pay that back to the sewer fund, sewer system development charge fund, next fiscal year.
That was my question. Are we borrowing it for 24, 25 and we have to pay it back by 26?
We're borrowing it for 25, 26. So this year ends in the black. We got to pay it back in 26, 27.
Okay, that's a little bit more green, so that's great.
Now, many of you may recall that in 2014, the city borrowed $500,000 from the sewer fund to help the water fund put up a reservoir. And for 10 years, the water fund has been paying back the sewer fund. And last year, actually in 2024-25, they made that last payment of 50,000. So that debt was made. When you do a capital project, you can borrow it for 5 or 10 years. However, we're borrowing money because our general fund is in the red. There's no capital project involved, and therefore state rule is you've got to pay back next year. So what we are doing is borrowing now. So on June 30, we are not in the red in any fund, including the general. That means next year's budget, I have to budget to pay them back. So, I talked about several items here, but I really like to talk about finance actions taken, which is on the back side. These are things that I have done in our effort to reestablish our general fund operation and to appropriately be more focused on charging expenses to funds that should be paying for those expenses. I've shared several examples with you, including the fact that my first discovery, I think, was we were paying for street sweeping out of the general fund. $7 or $8 grand a year, but it should come out of the street fund, not the general fund. Our most recent one, we discovered yesterday or the day before? Day before yesterday. It's time for our annual donation to Love Inc. Now, Love Inc., as you are probably aware, is our reference or resource to send people to when they need help with their utility bill. Every year in March, the city has an agreement with Love Inc., a nonprofit that does Woodburn, Hubbard, and service resource assistance. And a part of that agreement is that we pay $5,000 a year to the Love Inc. as a part of that agreement. That service they provide. They interview clients. We send people there when they help them out, not only utility billing, but other social economic challenges. Well, so I said, okay, so we're going to cut a check for $5,000. Great. Where'd they take the money out of last year? General fund. We will be paying the $5,000 by percentage of water, sewer, and stormwater that a bill typically is. So the $5,000 is going to come partially out of the water fund, partially out of the sewer fund, partially out of the stormwater fund, based upon the percentage that your monthly bill is. Again, our staff now, we are re-evaluating how we track and how we organize and how we designate our costs. And as a part of that, you'll see some items here that some of these were actually suggested ideas in last year's budget document. But we are transferring a lot less out of the general fund than we normally do, than we even budget. We're not transferring into the police vehicle fund. We're not transferring in to the public works vehicle fund. We're not transferring in to the special event fund. We had budgeted to transfer 8,100 into the fireworks fund, but we're only transferring in 1,500 in order to put the fireworks fund back in the black. There are things that I have changed as it relates to the amount of money leaving the general fund in order to sort of put my finger in the dike and save the money in the general fund. We have reviewed all of the expenses for professional services. That was an area that was really challenging and really what blew the budget in 23, 24, 24, 25. It was professional services. We're just watching how those expenditures are being done. And I have created an administrative split of some costs that should be generated or funded by more than just the general fund. We print the utility bills on that copier that's in that. We print the postage, we print things that should not just be funded by the general fund. My position, Deanna's position. The city server, the audit costs, the consulting CPA, all that is being split up by percentages based upon the amount of funding, the amount of money, or the amount of staffing involved in those expenses. And something that we are constantly looking at and tracking and making changes at. In fact, that figure you have here for the 26-27 budget has been changed already for the next year's budget based upon our research and our tracking of expenses. The other big thing that we've done is, or I've done, I get the blame, I get the credit. All the interest that the city receives, the money we have invested in the local government investment pool, we currently have about 3.4 million there. All that interest putting back into the general fund. Now, long term, the history has been that we've gone through, separated that out, and if sewer has, if the sewer system development charge fund has $1 million, which they do, they would get a percentage of that. But for the 25-26 year we're in right now, and in the proposed budget that you'll see in a couple of weeks, 627, keeping that interest in the general fund. These are all steps that we're taking to, in my opinion, more appropriately put the costs of the services are being provided. I mean, just because we have an audit done, it involves all the funds, not just the general fund. In fact, the general fund has the least amount of money. So, anyway, but so these are things that have occurred that I want to make you aware of. If you're wondering how we're digging our way out on the hole as it relates to that. So I would draw your attention to the spreadsheets.
Thank you for the feedback, Greg. This was really awesome. This is not something we had before, so that was great. So I was like, oh, this is cool. It's tracking where we're at right now and where we're gonna be. And that was really helpful.
There's a little bit of color coding in this chart. The green boxes up above are columns that you will see in the budget document. So when the budget document gets printed on April 9th, the front page only, right? Yours is black and white.
Yep.
How about that?
You know, black over.
Okay, we're fine too.
You drive over yours while they're looking at it?
Yeah.
But, okay. So the red boxes are just extra information. The red columns are data that I keep in this chart until the very last minute, because it's a resource of information based upon me predicting what I'm going to put into the 26-27. So those red columns you won't see when you get your budget on April 9th. The green columns are all items that you will see in your budget document. And the one on the far right will change, of course, because I'm still playing with it. But essentially, this is the format in which you will receive your budget on April 9th. So you have the actual 23-24, the actual 24-25, the adopted of the year we're in right now, and then the other remaining column, what the budget is. So this is the format of both being a finance history as well as a significant tool for our planning budget next year. So you have this information now, but the red columns you will not see when you get your budget, because it is a state mandated form that we use. Those are the columns that are there. I would draw your attention down to the orange boxes on the far, sort of the right corner. The supplemental budget moved these transfers into the general fund, which again is a source of revenue in which was not originally intended, but we did it in order to help save the general fund. The original budget had one of these. Anyway, so these three funds are going to be no longer existing in the next upcoming budget. Well, wastewater SDC. The first one's the wastewater SDC. That's the loan. So that's the revenue that came in by the loan. The second one, ARPA fund, closing that out. That project is done. Was about 50,000 in there. Moving into the general fund. The capital reserve fund was already scheduled to be closed. And the money figure is about 106. So the supplemental budget that occurred included moving those funds and those into. So this first page is general fund revenue. It talks all about where all our revenue is coming from. The red ink in the very top right corner area is the fact that the fund started in the negative by 373. The next page is our administrative fund or a sub fund of the general fund or administrative costs. Essentially, the orange spot where we either moved money or took out money as part of the supplemental budget. Again, your columns allow you to see where we project to be at the end of this fiscal year and what was actually adopted. So you've got 3 years of history plus where we're at right now. Next page is police department. You'll see again some more orange boxes. Police department had more money in the personnel section because when we have the interim chief, there was a contract, so it got paid out of materials and services, which meant we had more money in personnel that we didn't need to have. But we needed to move money down to materials and services because the contract for the services was a contract, i.e. services, and got paid out of materials and services. So the orange boxes are all about changes that occurred as a part of the supplemental box, the supplemental budget. And you'll find it in various places going around this budget. Now, I don't know if you want to spend time going through all of these funds and what we have. We have yet to figure out a way to number our pages, but
Remind me what the penalty report on page 2.
I put yellow because it's still a question mark, because it's a positive and an expense account. For reasons passing understanding, some of our fees for planning and land use were being put into a liability fund. If I'm speaking, please. So being placed into a liability fund rather than in a revenue fund. And we are still sorting out for the last 3 years, some of the payments being appropriately coded for land use and building permits. And it's it's a work in process. You have a better explanation for the penalty stuff?
That's the best thing, I would say, because some of the penalties that we paid one year, we got the payment the next year. And so you normally have to, yeah, have an offset.
I'm happy to spend time going through the whole entire thing, but I'd like to talk about a couple of the things here. If you go to my staff report, which is a normal size paper, then further. The page after the staff report, right behind it, the 2 pages, look like this. This is a narrative description of what the supplemental budget was all about. I wanted to do the budget, supplemental budget in March, because I wanted to move the money, wanted to make the transfers. I wanted our finance reports at the end of the month to include all that. So again, we can sit back and look at where everything is at. Believe it or not, we're gonna do one more supplemental budget. Not related to any of these, but another item down the road. But, so supplemental budget and what it actually did. So this is a listing, I believe it's 14 items that give you the detailed information about what the supplemental budget did at the March council meeting. We had a $5,000 expense for court software that was not budgeted for. So essentially, we took the entire amount that was in contingency, which was $3,684, and moved it up into the court fund to help cover a $5,000 software expense for court. Now, this is an annual fee.
It is an
It
annual.
is an annual fee, which prior to our presence was paid out of the general fund. That's what one item is, the general fund revenue. The original budget closed the capital reserve fund, but closed the capital reserve fund with $72,000. Although there's actually $107,000. So the supplemental budget increased the amount of the revenue in the capital reserve fund and then moved it from 72 to 107 into the general fund. So again, this is a paper trail, a legal process. Some of these things don't require supplemental budget. Some of these don't require a hearing, but I intentionally included every single motion and movement. So right, wrong, or indifferent, at least you can track it. Number 3, we moved all the funds from the ARPA account, put them in the general fund. Number 4, we authorized a transfer and loan up to $220,000. So far, we've only moved $200,000. I expect that would be all from the sewer system development charge fund to the general fund. We also passed a standalone resolution authorizing that loan. Number 5, it was just moving funds within the general fund. We had extra money in personnel. We moved it down to material and services. The same thing for number 6 in the police fund. We had extra money in the personnel fund for police, for a police chief position that was actually paid for by a contract and paid on materials and services. Number 7, we had those very special cameras that we found in boxes in the police department for, that we have a 5-year contract, pay 28 grand a year.
Yes.
Pay 28 grand a year. That wasn't exactly budgeted. And so we moved some of that extra police money pay the capital outlay and make one of those 5 payments that he put. Number 8, water, the original budget projected the water fund would start with 300,000. It actually started with 367,000. Essentially, the supplemental budget added that 67,000 to the revenue and authorized the expenditure of that 67,000 to our water fund, which is hurting. Number 9, movement within the water fund to cover some of the projects going on. Number 10, storm drain fund. Again, moving money within the storm drain fund based upon projects that we want to do involving storm drains. Number 11, the police department vehicle fund. The original budget said the fund started with 8,100. Our in-house estimate, that fund started with 40,000. We needed the money. We made the second payment that we owe. We will make the second payment that we owe for the 28,000 towards the cameras that have been sitting on the police station floor for last year. So again, moving funds, documenting it, saying why. Number 12, capital reserve fund, transferring the full amount of the 106,000. 13, authorizing the loan out of the wastewater system development charge fund. And number 14, authorizing the movement of funds into the general fund. So the supplemental budget, the first supplemental budget that they did 2 that night. That's what those 14 actions were. Again, some of them didn't require public hearing, some did. Some required a resolution, some didn't. We just did a hearing for all of them, did a resolution for all of them. So nobody has to go back and play detective. They want to see where it's okay. They did a second supplemental resolution as well, which had to do with moving funds within different funds in order to put into capital outlay enough money on 3 separate funds to write the check for $124,381.36 for a new backhoe that we purchased later this month. But those were all movements within 3 separate funds. Again, not requiring a high level, but really second supplemental budget. I anticipate that the May council meeting, I will be requesting a second supplemental budget, third supplemental, in which we are going to be moving some funds within the storm drain fund. The storm drain fund was projected to start with about 20,000 in it. Actually started with 82,000, and we have enough storm drain projects that we want to do that we need to do supplemental budget to increase the starting fund, the storm drain fund, to what is in reality, and authorized to spend at least half of that. You may have seen that we have people going around fixing manholes started with Monday.
Yes.
Monday this Monday. It's sort of, we're trying to stop I&I, slow down I&I, slow down the amount of rainwater that we are running through our sewer system and treating. Our dry months, we rarely cap 4 million gallons a day or month.
A month.
For,
Collect.
and in our dry months, we treat 4 million gallons a month. In wet months, we treat 12 million. I don't think it's because of people are using the bathrooms and draining. I think it's because we have enough leaks in our sewer system that we are treating, spending chemical, time, energy for this. So that's what the I&I is all about, preventing that. Anyway, I have spoken long enough. I have given you, I think, a okay overview of our finances. I've given you a written document that gives the details completely. Happy to continue discussing, talking, whatever this board desires. But I felt that you deserve to know where we are financially. I felt you deserve a clear understanding of the supplemental budget that I took to the council earlier this month. And the expectation that I expect to do more on the stormwater fund probably in May. Any questions as it relates to, let's start with the process about what I am doing as your administrator, manager, budget officer. Any questions about how we're doing it and why we're doing it, the process of what we're doing at this point in time?
I would like to know, so it's been 3 years since we had the water increase, but you're asking for a 9-year mandatory increase? That's what it says. You want this increase until 2035.
That was put in 2019 versus 2020.
The resolution,
It was in a previous meeting.
maybe can you read what it says right there? I don't have it in front of me.
It says after the last water rate study was completed, the council adopted a resolution calling for a 2.76 annual increase until 2035 based upon water infrastructure needs
That is correct.
for 9 years.
No,
It's only 2026, so if you're going to 2035,
This was supposed to be done starting in 2020.
Yes.
He's just, it doesn't say it on
it
here,
doesn't
but
say it, so
Um,
it's, I'm not gonna say it's incomplete, but it's confusing because the dates aren't lining up.
I guess what needs to be said is this resolution for this was done by the council in 2019, going into 2020.
Yeah.
You didn't put all that in here, you're right. So it is a little confusing, but this was done by the council in 2019, 2020.
So in
And-
2020, they did one for 15 years?
Yes, for the wastewater, for the,
15 years.
yes.
Okay, wastewater,
For what?
The wastewater plant, the new one that they put in,
okay,
that was what this is for.
okay, so just what I'm seeing in here isn't making sense, and that's why I brought it up.
I appreciate you pointing that out to me. The actual resolution will be in the budget packet when you get the budget packet on April 9th. I just thought it was interesting enough to include it in the packet. But essentially, they did a water master plan in 2018, 2019. And as a part of that water master plan was a recommendation of rates that said that if you're going to do what your infrastructure needs done for the next 20 years, you need to at least have a base increase of 2.75 annually until the year 2035. And we did it for 4 years straight, and we haven't done it for the last 3 years.
Okay.
That's lay of the land.
Okay.
You're right. I need to clarify that a little bit better, and I will strive to do so.
I was just confused by it, you know.
I didn't see the purchase of the new backhoe in here, did I miss it? I didn't see the purchase of the new backhoe in here, did I miss it? The numbers for the new backhoe?
No, because I think the backhoe happened after the last day of February.
Perfect, I got put it in my notes, I'm like backhoe question mark, because I didn't see it. And perfect, and then my other question was. Are we budgeting in for the sidewalk?
The new budget has the money coming in from the school district, money going out for the sidewalk project, with a comment that we only expect design to happen within the 26, 27 year, because we only want to build it during the summer. So they're gonna hand us a check this summer. We'll want to do design during the winter, but we're not wanting to do construction. So within this upcoming budget, we'll spend the money on design, but I don't expect to spend the money on construction. So a majority of that check is going to carry over into 27, 28.
Perfect. Well, that's perfect, because if we save the money and make interest off the money, that's even better than this. So I like it.
So what happens if price of materials go up?
That's just.
True. We'll have to, the city will have to cover the cost.
Questions about numbers, figures, things you want to see, things as it relates to the finance report? Things you're unclear, things you want to see more history about or don't want to see some. Attempted to provide a balanced amount of info, knowing that we have some challenges. This year's budget originally was crafted for 13 full-time employees. We never reached that number because of police hiring. Next year's proposed budget is going to be 12, just based upon our expenses. But
Most here, you said there was one less PD position. Particular boss, I mean, yeah.
so the proposed budget, chief administrative assistant, 3 officers. But that's not public yet, because that's where the money is right now.
Will you be, making an announcement that you're going to be meeting more budget committee as, my time is up June 30th.
Me too.
Lisa's time is up June 30th.
I believe they're up at the end of the calendar.
I was just looking at the thing you have in here for, the state guidelines for it, and it runs through June 30th. It's the fiscal year, not the calendar year.
Now then we need to back out in our group. Or ask people,
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
thank you. We don't have to worry about that until July.
But I just had like stuff highlighted for just some of the funds that I'm just curious, are we actually gonna get some of these things like the liquor tax, like the actual last year was 43, but we're budgeting for 50. I mean, should we keep it lower? Wouldn't that be playing it safer?
If we play safer, if talking about next year, we can't change the figure for this year.
Right.
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 They're quarterly payments.
That was just some of my highlights of making sure we're matching, keeping these numbers for our proposed budget.
What was 18,000 we got today? We got
Yeah.
some state money today.
And I would almost suggest, since it's been so hard to get anybody to even apply for planning committee or even bids committees or any other committees, that we don't wait till June for this.
Cutting now.
Start advertising for the budget committee.
Okay.
But no, those were just some of my questions, and that's all I think we can talk about.
Yeah.
I can come in and just like, hey, should we lower some of this? Should we hire some of this? Just kind of looking at what the actual numbers were for 25. I just kind of want to keep on that same trajectory. I don't want to overshoot just because things are getting more expensive. And the money that we're receiving is going to be, sounds like less, especially from the federal government and county. So.
We did not get much money from the county. State revenue insurance.
Instead. State.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like we're just being tight, so I would just like to make sure we're kind of keeping those under wraps. That was my only thing I was looking at. Put on my highlights. But you answered my other question, so.
And just to keep me in line, 24-25 audits, that's maybe completed April something. April 9th.
Well, April 9th is when we will be publishing proposed budget for 26, 27. Okay, we go out on April 9th, budget hearing, first budget meeting with a new budget. is on the 16th. So we send out the budget 1 week in advance. Budget message and budget sheets. Similar to what you have for the finance report, sheets down. You should get those on the 9th. We have our budget public hearing and a budget meeting to review the proposed budget on the 16th.
Okay, perfect.
Both pages.
So when do you think that the 24, 25 will be completed? Or is this as complete as we're getting?
No, we're gonna get a completed audit. It's gonna be based upon these figures, this trial balance here. There'll be some minor adjustments based upon some checks that happened during different time periods, but the bottom line you have in front of you. It is my hope that it will be completed prior to when I present the budget on the 16th.
Yeah, because I mean, it could be $1,000, it could be $50,000. But it could really make a big difference in the going forward 26, 27 budget, if all of a sudden that number has to change because of something that happened that you weren't aware of.
Keep in mind, the budget committee has from more or less from April 16th to May 23rd. So they've got 5 weeks to review. They can meet as much as they want.
Yeah.
They're at their own, it's at their own will. We may get additional information in it, but there will be another budget hearing and hopefully a budget adoption on June 4th. So I do anticipate that we'll have the 24, 25 audit definitely nailed down. Time for us to at least know it will be enough budget.
Okay.
Sorry, question from Irving North County. Are we required to expand?
Interesting question. Very good question, actually. The state housing has mandated that we have within our inventory available land 246 units within the next 20 years. So does that mean we have to expand our rural boundary? Well, that's the most logical result of that mandate, but there are other options out there. But their housing analysis on a statewide basis has more or less assigned to us in the next 20 years. We need to increase our housing units by 236.
So with that, before we would expand those 246, would we be travel of that traffic and how
Yep.
So soil analysis and stuff will take the most.
Yeah.
Just go up first. Yeah, around here.
One of the things that we can't at this point afford to do is move forward on that project because it requires, it's called the housing needs analysis and buildable land inventory, both which cost about 30 grand a piece before we can apply for consideration if we want to apply, expand it. The city has not taken a position. The city has made no significant commitments, proclamations, or anything that we want to. I'm telling you that the state says.
Do they have to cover any of the costs or anything since they're mandating it?
All in the city.
Have to look at grants to help cover it.
I thought I heard at one point we don't have the water capacity to do so though.
That was there. Someone said that wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do.
We're close with the recent upgrade of the pump. After, if we were to have an additional 246 houses all at once, it would be close. we're still doing the water pumping system, distribution system. It's completed with engineering, we'll have a better estimate as far as the cost. Grants, that would address some bars or paths, any future expansion.
The problem has been trying to get grants with our budget in the situation it's been. So I haven't really applied for any yet because our track record. Yeah,
And the antiquated pumps we did have, now we have to replace. We got a lot better water flow now.
Well, because I don't know, and I have to ask this questions because I don't. Would apartment complexes count as individual units per se houses?
But they might count as 3/4 credit. It would count.
They would count, okay.
I have one question on the parks development.
I have a question on the park development went through, which I did ask the committee about.
Okay,
You go first.
mine was just, what is this, so we're gonna pay them? Payments, payment.
Cost for IV.
Oh,
Oh, that was the.
We spent- in the park fund, you'll see 2 or 3 capital projects. One is about the subdivision with about 87 grand. One is a skate park with about 10 grand. And one is a veterans wall, about 7 grand. And we spent 10 grand out of that fund towards the backhoe. Now, my question is, I know very clearly that the 87 involved in the subdivision is dedicated for a future park. Something related to future park. That was the deal, that was cut.
And that's Ivy
Mhm.
Woods.
Yeah.
I do not know, and this was my question is, was the skate park money dedicated, raised to do a skate park? Or was it just somebody's idea that someday we wanted to spend 10 grand? And the same with the Veterans Wall. The Veterans Wall is something I certainly understand we would like to have, but I know that the 87 is promised money. My real question is, actually, is that 10 grand skate park also promised money dedicated?
It was never promised. It was, kids came in, made a petition, said they'd like to see a skate park around town. And said, what we used to have over here,
They tore it down.
we had to tear it down because it was rotted, wood was rotted. So at the time, kids were skating everywhere. They asked for one, city council at the time said, yeah, we'll look into it. So that's all I was. The Veterans Memorial, pretty much the same thing. Veterans like myself asked, hey, we don't have anything like that here. Couldn't possibly think about that. So those aren't permanents. Those are just niceties once if able to.
I knew I had to stay away from the, what's subdivision?
Ivy Woods.
I knew I had to stay away from that money.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether or not I needed to stay away from the other two. My question, because we used 10 grand out of that fund. Or so.
Most of the park uses the bathroom, so.
So, I didn't know if that 10 grand needed to get replaced or not. So,
It was never finalized, never had the property for resources.
Not much, I mean, we don't replace it, but it would be nice maybe to put like a little skateboard feature in the existing park already for the kids, just to kind of.
That's what the final
Perfect.
question was, possibly see the National Guard to come in. You know, see these woods, do something to help us out, build that up for material. That's why it was about 10 grand at the time. I remember looking at all too. Yeah, pretty crazy. But either way, I mean, that's the still, the big thing is everyone in Ivy Woods is still screaming they want something on that side of town.
Right.
There's nothing over there.
I
You know, and I mean, I hate to say it, but even some of these alleys that are too small for properties might be big enough for a skate park. I don't know. But even then, you're still talking about lots of noise.
thank you for bringing it up, because I had the same question when I was working on it.
Yeah.
Whether or not that money was dedicated. I knew the Ivy was what it was, but I didn't know about the other two.
No, it was just, let's look into it.
Yeah, no, it would be something nice if we put like a little skate feature, and it, that's just be a park, is like little. Like it would even fit on the other side of, you know, the other side of the creek. Can you put some over there?
Yeah, because the other side, that's just for benches. and
Right.
all that, so
Right,
daggers.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, give me something else to tag,
well,
hey.
we have a nice round water feature that. I'm fighting it.
I'm sorry. I know, it's a bad design. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Okay, so
That's
that's,
all the comments I have, Madam Chair, but I'm happy to talk to you.
okay, I think that was my biggest one. I want to make sure that we are telling that people know that that money is still there for their park. We just have to find land and the space for it. So that's good. That was my big question. I was like, we're not giving them back that money, are we?
No, that's, so we don't have to have the property open over there, it's all over by boardwalk or.
The church has a nice lot that they don't use.
That was a whole.
Right there.
It was, the church was approached for like a 99-year lease or. something
Yeah.
like that. They not receptive to that because they wanted to utilize the property for something else and it'd be a long-standing use.
And there were a lot of mandatory requirements, like you cannot put in no bathrooms. Because kids from people go have sex and stuff. I'm not joking. heard
No,
it
no, I
straight
know.
from the church.
know.
It was like, what?
Yeah, that was the only, like one other one of them. Kind of. That's.
There's really nothing on that side right now.
I have
Yeah.
kind of just spitballing here, but I believe it's Junction City or Tangent. They have a detention pond like we have at Ivy Woods, and they have made it multi-layer where there's a basketball court above it, and I floated that, but there's several rules that
Environmental issue.
prevent that, and including insurance. You know, I've explored a lot of different options to bring it, but I say, you know, realistically, the closest place that we have property is the existing basketball. Potential for expanding that, but it is just purely on the inside of the tracks. It's not very close proximity
Right,
to the
right. But it's still not.
still.
Other side of the tracks. Okay, we'll have to look at that further, same with the.
Well, even that, if we, right, we got recently, so with the railroad, parts of that property.
It's like talking to a wall. We reached out even to have the air damages that they've done to our facilities.
I do work with railroad community in my job, but it's,
Access to challenge.
and you just want to throw things at them. Literally. So I have one last. Are we going to see a water bill increase this year? And how much?
The proposed budget,
I just wanna, I know that it was talked about, no, it's not even that. It's just that, I know we talked about it, I think in January.
I'm going to propose one in budget,
Okay, perfect.
but that's up to the council, so the budget committee.
And
council,
my
whatever.
thought is 5% sounds good because the previous administration obviously didn't do their job. But what I do have an issue with is charging me to use my debit card. I do have an issue with that. I don't mind paying the increased water bill, but I do have an issue with using my debit card and getting charged.
That's a frustrating one because our bank fees have also
I know.
gone up too.
I
from what I
know.
noticed. Is that due to the new processing?
Well, it's not doing anything at all. We've been paying significantly. We lose a lot of our water and sewer money to.
Prior administration, from what I was told by the credit card company, prior administration was supposed to renew it, and they didn't renew. And so that's why the rates rocketed to 11% a month.
For our processing fees.
Correct.
That's why. I
So
still-
I'm looking at options and trying to get it lowered, but
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Challenge.
My bank goes back.
Okay, because that was the other thing I looked at, I was like, where are all these increased banking fees coming from? Like, that's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and other
Yeah,
cities do
banking
charge fees for using a card.
Right.
Just like other businesses do.
Yeah, if you're. Yeah.
But you only can do so much, like 3% is about the maximum we can.
Okay. Those just some of the things we got researched to find this. Okay, no problem.
Well, that's where the GER actually came from, because originally it was told to be not 3%. It was like, oh, it's gonna be probably this much. And after it started, then it was like, oh, it's 3%. That's where the real kicker comes from right there. It's here, it was gonna be like 1.5%, now you find out it's 30. I'll pay for it for free.
Yeah, I guess we just suggested a lot of more customers try that. I think it's that we can pay for free instead. That will save us money and our citizens money. Okay, because that was another one I was like, so these bank fees in here, that's my other highlight.
We have an option to pay it online, that last one, it makes sense. But not everybody wants to.
Yeah,
use
yeah,
that system.
extra fees, no, because we all feel like we're getting feed to death. I get it. Oh, cool, okay, I'll do some research on that too.
I'm looking at other options, but it also, because of our software company too, we have to only certain merchants
Mhm.
use the software company, so we have to.
Because our tech is merged in with Woodburn, and that's not something we can merge in with Woodburn to use. Their payment processing system.
Speaking of computer systems, things like that, where we were looking at, you were looking at something, see if we get a better upgrade, something that actually works for the budgeting.
Well, are you talking about the software?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple of quotes, and one of the quotes is pretty high. I shared them with Rick. But the other thing is with the software, our software can do things, and I found out that we're on 9. It's only gone up one more version. I just found out it's only like, it's not as old as people made it sound like. And I'm still obviously learning the software, and it has its functionings. My biggest gripe with the software is just customer service, but you're not always guaranteed. You're guaranteed great customer service at first, and then it.
Like buying a new car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like for me, I'm upset with the software company about the credit card fee because they told us to go with this merchant place, but I don't know what they told the prior staff when it didn't get renewed like it should have. Cause they're like, that's on you to renew it. So it's like, okay, we have to just keep notes of when we renew and make sure that we're watching our statements. Cause when I first got in here, I'm like, yeah, I'll look at the statements, and I was shocked by the amount. And then I'm like, well, if no one's looking at it monthly, you're not gonna notice.
Right.
Yes. So pretty much brought that up, just wondering if, the 26, 27 budget, we see something on the floor. New software upgrade.
The T-Mobile grant over the end of this month, so and I'll have to start all over again next year, basically for stuff, but.
I thought it would be just upgrade to 10. But they just won't.
I'm working to get them to give me a quote for that, if there's any change. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like why upgrade if it's the same QuickBooks in a way. There's
Let's go
talking
and
to
get
the
that. I knew
other
the
cities, they're
system
all
was working
using
just fine. And
Microsoft.
then all of a sudden, everybody said it was piece of crap and we used it, just like, it was working just fine.
If we're backing up everything on Excel, then we should be.
But I'm not interested in the city going up one level in software. If they keep us at the interest rate that they have us at right now.
Yeah.
So
This is what that
there's
way.
different elements of this conversation and package of software need, software changes, and interest rate that comes with their handling of credits and debit cards using their finance software. That merit a little different perspective than just doing it yourself.
Well, that makes sense.
And they basically told me, yesterday that they will give me a quote for what it would be for their interest if we get away from our merchant and go with them directly. But they said, wait, you need to wait till you're with your merchant with a lower rate, then we can give you a better rate. And I'm like, this is a bunch of garbage.
We've been chasing our tail on this one.
Parking a horse.
Well, look into the other option and see if we can roll in the Woodward. I think that. Especially like if we're already related to.
Roll into Woodford, the city of Woodford.
Yeah, like they're, who are they using for their processing and payments? So, you know what I mean?
Do you know what software they're using?
I will check with them. Yeah.
Yes, right now.
Is the software company you're using now, are we locked in on a long-term contract, any kind of contract with them?
No.
I don't believe so. We've been with it for so long. I don't think I'd be surprised if they have one. Do we have one?
You just have to pay to renew to have access to their,
Like Microsoft.
You just pay
It's at
the
some
annual fee.
right?
Going elsewhere,
Brings it back.
Yep. Yeah, it causes them to go.
yeah,
"Whee!"
exactly, I mean, just, and it wouldn't even have to be like a threat or anything, we're just exploring our options, seeing what else is viable out there that we may be able to utilize a little better for the citizens of our city.
We've got quotes from two other firms. We're still trying to address the high interest rate right now. Dealing with, so it's a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
So
Thank you.
last question. Does the chief of police have any thoughts on these cameras that are sitting in boxes in our police department as far as what we can do with them?
They're being put into vehicles.
We didn't want to install them in the whole vehicles, we were waiting for the
Right.
new ones, because they want just so that the company will only come out once
Really good
and do
systems.
everything.
Okay.
But we
Perfect.
just paid twice as much.
I know, I looked at the numbers and I was like, that's over $130,000 over 5 years.
The chief already said that amount could have supplied 10 vehicles.
I bet, I was gonna say, did we review that contract?
Was this?
I know, but can we review it? If there's any calls to tell review? Can I look at it?
Public document.
Email me the contract. I wanna see it.
It's a public document.
Okay, as
Yeah.
long as they're, we're gonna use.
Well, I'm a little concerned even about using them if there's ongoing litigation for this company right now. So that's my other concern is I want to read the contract, see what all our sales, how we can buy them out early, those kind of options.
Contracts are public document.
Yeah,
That's all
well,
I
and,
want.
yeah, no, and our citizens, it's a CYA thing
Oh,
for both.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, they're necessary.
Yeah.
But. We're not
Yeah.
box it for this long. Ridiculous. Any other questions? Everybody good? All right. We'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 8:13. Thank you.
Chairwoman, right?
No problem.
Thank you, everyone.